Steel didn't just build America, it concentrated its power in the hands of one man. Andrew Carnegie rose from a poor immigrant to the architect of an empire that forged the nation's railroads, bridges, and skyline. But behind the molten steel was a darker story: grueling labor, violent strikes, and a question that still echoes today. How much power should one industrial titan hold over a country's future? Andrew Carnegie built his steel empire by aggressively cutting costs and mastering new technologies like the Bessemer process. Carnegie entered the steel industry at a moment when America was rapidly industrializing, and demand for rails, bridges, and buildings was exploding. What set him apart was his relentless focus on efficiency. The Bessemer process, a method that allowed molten iron to be turned into steel quickly and cheaply by blowing air through it, became the backbone of his operation. Carnegie didn't just adopt this technology, he refined and scaled it. He reinvested profits constantly, upgrading machinery, improving production speed, and reducing waste. This approach allowed him to produce steel at lower costs than his competitors, undercutting prices while still making substantial profits. Carnegie also embraced a strategy of vertical integration, meaning he controlled every stage of production, from iron ore mines to railroads to steel mills. By owning the supply chain, he reduced dependence on outside suppliers and stabilized costs. This combination of innovation and control turned Carnegie Steel into the most efficient and profitable steel producer in the world. The result was transformative. Steel became cheaper and more widely available, fueling the construction of skyscrapers, railroads, and infrastructure that defined modern America. Carnegie's methods didn't just build a company, they helped build the industrial backbone of the United States. Vertical integration allowed Carnegie to dominate the steel industry by controlling raw materials, transportation, and production. In the late 19th century, many businesses relied on separate companies for materials, shipping, and manufacturing, which created vulnerabilities and higher costs. Carnegie saw this as an opportunity. He began acquiring iron ore mines, coal fields, and limestone quarries, the essential ingredients for steel. Then he invested heavily in railroads and shipping networks to transport these materials directly to his mills. By the time the raw materials reached his factories, Carnegie had already minimized costs at every step. Inside the mills, production was streamlined and tightly managed, ensuring maximum output with minimal waste. This level of control meant Carnegie could operate more efficiently than competitors who had to negotiate prices and deal with delays. It also gave him pricing power. He could lower prices to squeeze competitors out of the market while still remaining profitable. Vertical integration wasn't just a business tactic, it was a system of control that reshaped industrial competition. It made Carnegie Steel nearly unbeatable and set a template that other industrial giants would follow. This strategy helped consolidate power in fewer hands, raising questions about competition, fairness, and the growing influence of large corporations in American life. Carnegie's empire grew alongside harsh labor practices, culminating in the violent Homestead Strike of 1892. While Carnegie publicly supported ideas like workers' rights and philanthropy, the reality inside his steel mills was far more difficult. Workers endured long hours, dangerous conditions, and strict discipline. Wages were often cut during economic downturns, even as productivity demands increased. The tension between labor and management came to a head at the Homestead Steel Works in Pennsylvania. In 1892, Carnegie's partner, Henry Clay Frick, moved to break the powerful Amalgamated Association of Iron and Steel Workers by cutting wages and locking out union members. When workers resisted, Frick hired Pinkerton agents, private security forces, to take control of the plant. What followed was a violent confrontation between workers and armed agents, resulting in deaths on both sides. The state militia was eventually called in, and the strike was crushed. The outcome weakened organized labor in the steel industry for decades. The Homestead Strike exposed a stark contradiction. The immense wealth generated by industrial success came at a significant human cost. It also highlighted the imbalance of power between large corporations and workers, shaping the future of labor relations in the United States. The sale of Carnegie Steel to J.P. Morgan in 1901 created U.S. Steel, the first billion-dollar corporation in history. By the turn of the 20th century, Carnegie had built the most powerful steel company in the world, but he was ready to retire. Enter J.P. Morgan, the influential banker who specialized in consolidating industries. Morgan saw an opportunity to combine Carnegie Steel with other companies to create a massive, unified corporation. The deal was enormous. Carnegie sold his company for about $480 million, making him one of the richest individuals in history. Morgan then formed the United States Steel Corporation, valued at over $1 billion, a staggering figure at the time. This marked a turning point in American economic history. U.S. Steel controlled a significant portion of the nation's steel production, symbolizing the rise of corporate consolidation and centralized economic power. It also reflected a broader shift toward finance-driven capitalism, where bankers like Morgan played a key role in shaping industries. The creation of U.S. Steel demonstrated how industrial success could be transformed into financial dominance, and it raised new concerns about monopolies, competition, and the role of government in regulating big business. Carnegie's legacy is a paradox of vast philanthropy built on an industrial system that concentrated wealth and power. After selling his company, Carnegie devoted the rest of his life to giving away his fortune. He believed that the wealthy had a moral obligation to distribute their riches for the public good, a philosophy he outlined in his essay, The Gospel of Wealth. He funded libraries, universities, and cultural institutions across the United States and beyond, leaving a lasting impact on education and public access to knowledge. However, this generosity existed alongside the reality of how that wealth was created. The industrial system that made Carnegie rich relied on intense labor, low wages, and limited worker protections. While his philanthropy improved many lives, it did not address the structural inequalities within the system itself. This dual legacy continues to shape how Carnegie is viewed today. On one hand, he is celebrated as a builder of modern America and a champion of education. On the other, he represents the concentration of economic power that defined the Gilded Age. His story raises enduring questions about wealth, responsibility, and whether private philanthropy can truly balance the consequences of industrial capitalism.